I'd like to welcome you all to the May 2023 Lancaster County Planning Commission meeting. Thank all of you guys that are here. Thank all of our guests that are in attendance. Did everyone receive their packets from last month's meeting and have time to review them?
Yes.
Any changes or corrections that need to be noted? No? No. I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'll abstain since I wasn't here.
Duly noted. Okay, moving right ahead, we've got our first, well, our only public hearing of the night is an updated comprehensive plan introduction in chapter 1. We've seen this for the last 2 months, and we're ready for a public hearing on it. Mr. Gill, you passed out some notations from a constituent that's not able to attend tonight. You want to bring us up to speed on where we are?
Well, as you said, you've considered this the last few months. Code of Virginia requires that the Planning Commission review the comprehensive plan at least once every 5 years. The current comprehensive plan that we have was adopted by the Board of Supervisors way back on October 31st of 2013. The current ongoing review was initiated in November of 2018, so it was right there in that 5-year window. But the current review is still ongoing, and it's 2023. The introduction in Chapter 1 are the last 2 items to be completed for this current review of the comp plan, and then we can set it aside, hopefully, for another 5 years. So all of the changes that the Planning Commission has requested over the prior meetings have been made. They're highlighted on the draft. Advertising has been conducted as required by law. Other than the discussion at the prior Planning Commission meetings, the only response from the public that we've had is what I handed out before the meeting, which came from one of our regular meeting attendees who had 5 comments to make, and I don't need to go through them. I think you can read them, and you all can decide if they have merit and warrant changes maybe after you have the public hearing.
Did we give a copy of that to Kristen?
Yes.
Should I discuss that in the open public hearing that we've been submitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
For the record. All right. You guys have any questions for Mr. Gill before we open up public hearing?
No.
All right, this time we'll open up the public hearing regarding the update to the comprehensive plan introduction in chapter 1. If anyone comes forward, I'd ask that they please state their name and their district.
This is not the noise ordinance. This is the comprehensive plan update. Yeah. Yeah, but just, no, this isn't the time for that. Sit back and enjoy.
Glenn, do we have anyone online? All right, well, no comments. We'll close this portion of the public hearing. I would like to note that we have received some information, not some information, but some suggestions from Mr. Costello. I mean, they're mostly grammatical suggestions. Timing of the Tides Resort versus the Tides Inn. I have no problem with any of them. Does anybody on the commission have any heartburn with anything he suggested?
I don't have any heartburn, but I'm having trouble finding the third, his number 3. It says on page 1-5, the first paragraph, the last sentence, and I don't see. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Yep. Okay, yep,
You
I'm
okay?
good. Mhm.
Okay.
I'm good with them.
Steve? Floyd? Glenn? You good? All right, if you guys don't mind, I'll just make a motion to forward.
Well, Ty, hold on a minute. I think Olivia
sorry.
may have something
You
as
got
well.
something, Olivia?
I had one grammatical error to add.
What'd you add?
On page 1-6, second paragraph, last sentence, it says code dash space S. So that should be codes, plural.
Did you get that, Crystal?
Page 1-6, second paragraph, last sentence, the word code, and then there's an S that's hanging. It should say codes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with what's presented to us right now, I'd like to make a motion to forward this updated comp plan with the attached notes from Mr. Costello, the verbiage that we just spoke up, and forward it with a favorable review. This new updated comprehensive plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, guys. All right. Now, you guys that weren't here last month, you were lucky because we decided to keep it. This first consideration item, the proposed zoning ordinance, Article 29. We've seen this quite a bit. Y'all have read your updates from last month, and we just felt it was better to have a full consensus of the planning commission before we forwarded this basically this new zoning ordinance ahead. So, Mr. Gill, do you want to kind of bring everyone up to speed?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I mean, just for the benefit of those in attendance who may not have followed this, the Board of Supervisors directed the Planning Commission to propose a zoning ordinance to regulate short-term rentals. You all crafted one from ordinances in existence for the towns of Irvington and Urbana, the cities of Williamsburg and Virginia Beach, and the counties of Goochland and Louisa. Last month's public hearing was the second public hearing that you had on this short-term rental ordinance. And there were several items brought up at last month's public hearing, and I've highlighted those, and I'll just walk you through these. On page 1, you'll see highlighted in yellow where it talks about short-term rental hosted. It's also the same language in the short-term rental unhosted definition. What's highlighted says, but shall not exceed 10 people total. And that came from the discussion of the number of guests should be limited by the Department of Health septic system permit or the certificate of occupancy for public sewer with no cap. And because if a house is permitted through the Department of Health with 6 bedrooms, and you assume 2 adults per bedroom, then that would be 12 people. So we had a person who spoke last month who had a large home who the cap at 10 would affect, and that's where that discussion came from. So, you know, I've highlighted that tonight. If you all want to consider taking that out and just having the language that remains, the guests be limited by the Department of Health septic system permit or the certificate of occupancy for public sewer, and not worry about the 10-person cap, that's up for discussion. Also, in those same 2 paragraphs, the maximum number of rented nights shall not exceed 240 per calendar year. You'll remember that when the very first version of this ordinance, that number was 180, which basically was just half a year. Several people spoke last month that, you know, this seemed to suggest that we're pushing for short-term rentals because that's 2/3 of the year. So, you know, that's up for discussion if you want to consider changing that. And on page 2, we talked about having language requiring the short-term rental operators to tell us that there were no deed restrictions or covenants of any homeowners association that they may be a part of as being part of the ordinance. And after talking with the county attorney, he suggested that that language not be included in the ordinance, but be included in the special exception application. So always want to follow the county attorney's advice there. Middle way of page 2, talking about general liability insurance. You know, the previous ordinances that we reviewed, some had 500,000, some had $1 million. People who spoke last month, you know, questioned that, and maybe that it should be $1 million. That's up for discussion. The highlighted item at the bottom of page 2 goes back to that cap of 10 people, regardless of what the health department permit says. Nothing on page 3. And on page 4 is a simple correction that needed to be made. That was pointed out that, we seem to have a 3 strikes and you're out, terminology here, but the way it was written, it was 4 strikes and you're out. So I changed that so that it says violations on 3 or more occasions. So that fixes that. So really what you're looking at is the highlighted items on pages 1 and 2, unless you have something else to consider that I haven't highlighted.
Quick question, if we change anything, does it have to come back to us again?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I may speak, these changes are just, the bedroom versus the cap. I mean, I think the board can supervise that to how they want it. I mean, I personally feel as if the bedroom count works, but I mean, we've got the 10 maximum, I mean,
Yeah. There,
I don't know if that sort of contradicts itself.
well, you made a comment at last month's meeting that you hadn't seen a whole lot of homes in the county that had, approved permits for more than, I think, 4 bedrooms is what you
I
said.
mean, the typical one is 3 to 4.
Yeah, so.
6-bedroom ones I looked into, they're the kind of ones that you see like at the end of My Farm Road, or Mr. Bryant's types of
Yeah,
houses.
so that there's not that many of those,
No.
so.
No, they're not. But
So really what you're saying is if we just took that out, it's gonna govern itself, the health department. And
Yeah.
some people may wind up with less.
It could, yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, I'd rather just see it go with the health department.
That way it's uniform for everybody.
So we're talking about taking out, but shall not exceed 10 people total?
Yes.
Just taking that out?
Yeah, and just let the bedroom count govern.
I think that's a good idea, not only because there are some places with where more than 10 people would be allowed, but I think some people will tend to read this or pretend they read this as saying that they can have up to 10 people.
Yeah, regardless of the bedroom count. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Let's see, you took that out. I mean, the insurance,
How about the maximum number of rented nights? Any thought about that? Currently, it's written in here at 240. Any thought on
we
that?
sort of talked about it. I don't have any heartburn on the way I think y'all ultimately make that decision. And then the insurance, I mean,
Leave it at 240.
okay. And the insurance, just leave it at $500,000 for now. Yeah. You think there's any reason to increase it?
I think $1 million is kind of the standard in the industry.
I don't care one way or the other. Again, do you think it's gonna be too restrictive or not too restrictive? I don't know.
No, I mean, we saw some ordinances that were 500 and some that were 1 million. Maybe more were 1 million, but,
That's, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, if we send up the, if you decide you want 500,000, that's fine with me, I don't care. Or y'all decide. And then your other changes, I don't know, I think we've done a nice job of what we started with and where we are.
Yeah, I think we've done a great job. I think our ordinance far exceeds what I've seen from the other municipalities. I did have one other thought. We require that various things be posted in the STR, parking plan, emergency numbers be posted on the wall, and that they have certain things, smoke detectors, CO detectors, that sort, safety things. Do we need a phrase in here that gives us a right to enter the premises, a right of entry provision? In case we get a complaint from somebody who says, a neighbor who says, that place next to me is an absolute mess, they're not following any of your requirements, and really, we would need to go in to check it out. Do we need something in here that would allow that?
refer to our local law enforcement.
I don't think legally you're gonna be able to do that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's more of a county attorney question. I mean, we
I get
we
it.
could,
It's a good-
I think
good
it
idea.
is too, but
yeah. I mean, we could pose that question at the next level,
Yeah.
you know, if it's something that the majority of the planning commission thinks is worthy.
Just, we'll duly noted.
I
Mr.
think if
Chuck's
we have a
comments.
provision in here expressing that right, 99% of the people are going to comply with it without question. If we don't have it in there, we'll probably get objections and people will take it to court. Anyway, it is a legal question. no
Let's
doubt
pose it
about
to the county attorney
Yeah, well,
before,
you know, if you all wanted to put it in this draft, I would say you'd have to go back to another public hearing because it's something totally new that's in here.
we'll just make a note of it. in the
Yeah,
minutes.
I think just a note in the minutes
Yeah,
that,
that's a
that,
good point, but
you know,
I don't want to hold this up anymore. I know
Yeah.
the board's dying to get it there. Good comments. Any other things, guys? You make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we forward this proposed Article 29 to the Board of Supervisors for approval with the change of deleting the limit on the 10 people and leaving it as the occupancy for public sewer. Everything else remained the same.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Booth. We have a motion on the floor to forward this new zoning ordinance to the board with favorable review. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, guys. So with that, we had to forward the proposed amendments, correct?
yes, the second public hearing last month dealt with the zoning ordinance amendments that would be needed in, coordination with this new ordinance, basically to add definitions in Article 1 of short-term rental operator, short-term rental hosted, and short-term rental unhosted. And based on the action that you just took regarding the ordinance, under the short-term rental hosted and unhosted definitions, I would assume that you all want to strike the but shall not exceed 10 people total as well, to be consistent.
Yeah, good catch.
Then it's just a matter of determining which zoning districts that you want to allow short-term rentals. Currently, we have them in the A2 district. The amendment would add permitted uses of a short-term rental hosted, which would be by right, and short-term rental unhosted with a special exception. We would allow them in the R1 district. Same amendment, adding short-term rental hosted as by right, short-term rental unhosted with a special exception. Same amendment in the R4 district, short-term rental hosted by right, short-term rental unhosted with a special exception. Same amendment in the R3 district, short-term rental unhosted by right, short-term rental unhosted with a special exception. That, this particular Article 7, the R3 district, would also include deleting tourist home as a permitted use because that's just a duplication or another name for short-term rental, kind of an archaic name. And then the last zoning ordinance would be our W1 Waterfront Residential Overlay District. Same amendment, add short-term rental hosted by right and short-term rental unhosted with a special exception.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Any questions? I think you caught all the stuff that needs to be caught.
Yeah,
Do you need a motion?
yeah.
Yes, any other input on that? You good?
I move that we forward the proposed zoning ordinance amendments for Articles 4, 5, 6A, 7, and 18 as presented, and Article 1 with the deletion of but shall not exceed 10 people total in the two paragraphs.
Thank you, Ms. Booth. We've got a motion on the floor to send these proposed amendments to the board with favorable review. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I was right there with solar for a while. We've been looking at this one for some time.
Well, you spent quite a bit of time with solar and quite a bit of time with short-term rentals, and you may be getting ready to spend quite a bit of time with the noise ordinance.
Which is a nice segue to our next discussion item. We've got proposed revision to the county's noise ordinance. Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, since last November, we've had several county residents come before the Board of Supervisors and speak during public input about, noise and how our current noise ordinance, they felt needed to be revised. And Mr. Mueller is here tonight. He was one of the folks who have attended many of those board meetings, and I guess he kind of represents the group that have come before the board, and they have provided some copies of other jurisdictions' noise ordinances, as well as in the information that they provided, which is in your packet, they have a copy of the county's current noise ordinance, which is sections 2886 through 2888 of the Lancaster County Code of Ordinances. Not the Land Development Code, but the Code of Ordinances. Our current noise ordinance has not been revised since '03. I believe that's what it was. Yes. So it's been 20 years. And it's, it's not a whole lot to it. But anyway, the Board of Supervisors has directed the Planning Commission to review this material and make a recommendation at some point in time as to what amendments, if any, should be made to the county's noise ordinance. And, just like the solar ordinance and the short-term rental ordinance, this initial discussion is envisioned as a work session to help provide direction to staff for any future action that you feel may be necessary. And I know Mr. Muller's here tonight, and, of course, this is not a public hearing or anything, so if you allow him to speak, it's totally up to you, Mr. Chairman. But he may be appreciative of a few minutes if you can find it to allow him to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. So, who enforces noise ordinance right now in the county? Is it a law enforcement agent? Is it a
Well,
county
it's,
official?
it's a county ordinance, and so it can be enforced by both. I mean, usually the first call, I think, is going to go to law enforcement. And then, we may get some calls here in county administration about it as well. But I think the first call is probably going to wind up going to law enforcement.
Okay.
So I guess one of the questions would be, how many complaints have we received at the law enforcement?
I went over prior to the meeting tonight, and I will tell you that they didn't really know how to pull it up properly. But what they could pull up on there, there's been 11 calls since January till May 14th for loud noise. Now, I didn't get a chance to look at them, see addresses, to see what it actually said or was, but I'm gonna try to go back and have that pulled when the head person comes back to work, but they're on vacation now.
So 5 months, you're looking at 5 months.
Correct. That's what they pulled up.
And you weren't sure if there was businesses
I'm
or
not sure. Now,
residential?
what they did tell me is that they get, especially this time of year, they get a lot of calls for loud noise. But what the calls that they're seeing are gonna be like 606, Compass, the Tiki Bar, places like that. Not necessarily Joe Blow's house on, First Street or something like that. But like I said, I'm gonna try to pull more and figure out if I can pull it,
Okay.
just to see.
That's interesting. Very interesting. My second question is, does the county even have a decibel rating reader or whatever the proper?
Not to my knowledge. I know the staff and county administration does not. I don't know if the sheriff's
As
office.
far as I know, we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Yes, sir.
Get his hand up there.
You need to speak so that people in virtual land can hear you.
They're
If
not very expensive. You can get one on Amazon. In fact, my neighbor has one. Paid $29 for it.
I just was curious. I didn't know how we could get there. Thank you. What questions do you guys have regarding it? I mean, I look at our, and you're right, our noise ordinance is, it's very simple. But it hasn't been updated in, what's that, 20 years?
20 years.
You know, looking through some of this stuff, I mean, you know, we were kind of talking earlier. I mean, I believe you can have a 70, 80-page noise ordinance if you wanted it, but, I mean,
Yeah.
what, how, you know, is that what we want? And my gut tells me that it's not.
I think it'll be really interesting to see the data.
Yeah, if they can pull it, I do too.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd like to know what it is.
Right.
Yes.
And
And
I
maybe,
mean, if it's the same person each time for the same place, things of that nature. But once again, with this new system, I'm not smart enough to figure it out, so I'm hoping they'll be able to do it.
can you, I know y'all just switched software systems, but can you get prior years' numbers?
Well, no, because they, from what I understand, just shut us completely off on that.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing no, but I can check, I'll ask.
Okay.
I'll try to find out. But thought I was told that we were cut completely out when we,
Well, they were supposed to provide all the data,
yeah,
you
now I
know,
haven't
for,
seen that either yet, so.
for archives purposes.
Well, you would think
But-
if you had a multiple repeat offender, you'd want to know if you arrested him before or not.
Yeah,
Some sort of document.
yeah.
Be handy to
I mean,
know.
you would, I don't know. So, obviously, Mr. Morley, you're having some problems over there. Do we have any other individuals, or is it just that particular area that's hot on this noise ordinance right now?
Well, Mr. Muller was the very first person who brought this to our attention, and we told him that, you know, we needed to hear from more people. And the next time he came to a meeting, he brought more people with
There you
him.
go.
And the next time he came to a meeting, he brought more people with him. So.
So here we are.
So here we are,
I think we still talking about
the same area.
the same area.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask one question? What area are we talking about?
Well, I was going to tell you, I'm John Muller,
Okay.
I'm District 5. And the reason we came is because all of a sudden some people moved in from, was it Laurel Point? They were there, now they're over here with us. And they have ATVs and they have shotguns and rifles and pistols that they shoot. And that's what caused us to. And we went to the sheriff's department one time and chatted with him, but have not complained, but I guess I'll start complaining if that's what is needed. The one thing I want to say, I don't want to take up your time, but with having the decibel reader, you take out the subjectivity. When the sheriff's department comes, he can hold his, can stand at my property line or anybody's property line and hold the reader up and see how many decibels. And, you know, over 85 decibels is, causes hearing loss. So, and a chainsaw is 90, shotgun or a pistol is 150 decibels. It just
Are they,
takes,
is whoever the individuals are they exceeding the time limits?
sometimes, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
That seems the biggest cornerstone of all these amendments is the time, you know, but, I mean, we really don't have much on the books at all, but, yeah.
I'm just curious. You said your neighbor had a decimal reader.
Yeah.
What were the decimals at during the time of all this disturbance?
Well, she just got it, so
Okay.
I don't have any data on that.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure it's driving you crazy if you're doing this here. And I can only imagine.
We have a gun range or two here in this county, and we, I think they're over in Middlesex, there are ATV tracks. It's the safer place to be. There's one in Gloucester, but, and I understand, you know, it's my property and I can do what I want on it. I understand that, but if you're interfering with other people's enjoyment of their property, that's the issue.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Muller.
Thank you.
My fourth grade teacher taught us something. He says, your right to be free stops when it infringes on somebody else's right to be free.
Yeah,
I never forgot it.
amen. Amen. Well, I don't know what to say.
Well, I think Terrell hit it though.
Yeah.
Let's get this data, see what we can get, and it'd be interesting. I can't believe that the company saying y'all are cut off from.
That's what I was told. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I could be wrong, but that's what I was told.
Yeah,
You can't get anything offline.
Apparently there were hard feelings between them, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll check into it more.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I think the issue was they actually provided the data, but they provided it in a format that
That is correct.
the new software company couldn't decode.
It just said, it's
So-
your problem.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
okay.
If I can make one other comment.
Yes, sir.
Given that the county is working on the strategic plan for 2035, which is to bring more people into the county, and it needs to be a relatively sophisticated place, and the noise ordinance suggestions that we have only enhances that and makes things better for everybody, safer, everything.
Thank you. I'd like to note that this was not a public hearing. I don't want to get yelled at like I did last time. I mean, what does staff recommend? I kind of like some of these, I mean, but
Yeah.
you know, we
Well,
have to
Uh,
dig
I-
into this a little bit.
I like Tara's idea of trying to get some more data from the sheriff's office. I think Virginia, neighboring counties are good to look at. I'm not sure I would consider the Illinois example. That's not state of Virginia, and, you know, you're talking about two different states there. We don't have all of the neighboring counties, so maybe we can grab what Northumberland has, or Richmond County, maybe Matthews, King and Queen, you know,
Gloucester even.
to give you some more examples to look at. And, you know, talk about it, you know, at your next meeting.
Okay. We'll just start building it up. Fair enough. I'm sorry you got to go through what you're going through, for heaven's sakes. I got a friend of mine that lives in the town of Kilmarnock, and their kid, this is Kilmarnock now, got a motorcycle, and he's running up and down the driveway with no muffler on it. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So, okay, I think that's a good recommendation. We'll just kind of wait and see what the data comes. Any other questions? All right, yes, sir.
No.
Oh, I thought you said. All right. Moving right along. Other business, I can't believe we're back here again. Planning
Thank you
Commission
all.
elections. It's that time of year. By the bylaws for the Lancaster County Planning Commission requires the election of chairman, vice chairman, and secretary at the May meeting each year. Current officers are yours truly as chairman, vice chairman is Tara Booth, secretary is Crystal Way. And here we are. So,
It's working, no fix.
does anybody,
I don't have to say so.
no,
Yeah.
no, that's, does anybody want, does anybody want any positions, or anybody want to nominate anybody for any positions or anything like along those lines?
What about the secretary?
She didn't have a choice. Now, she's the only one that doesn't have a choice. Unless, Dave, you want to be the secretary. If anybody wants to be chair, please let me know. I'm happy. Anybody?
Let me shortcut this a little by saying that I think we have the three best people for these jobs already in the jobs. As far as these two, they take great care to make sure that all of our thoughts and are taken into account in every decision. They work well with the public, and I don't think we can do any better than these two. And as far as our clerk, you've heard my thoughts on our clerk over 14 years, and she's only gotten better. I can't believe we're able to keep her here in this job, that she's not stolen by somebody who knows a good thing when they see it. But anyway, let me...
Don does.
Let me nominate the same three officers.
Thank you, David. Any other nominations, anybody?
I'm just a representative
All right.
of BZA.
Well, thank you guys very much. We've got a recommendation to keep the present officers and secretary as they are. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, I think.
Ah.
Until next year. What is coming down the pipeline?
I don't believe, we don't have any applications right now for any action as far as rezonings or anything like that, that I'm aware of.
What are we looking forward for? Well, we're taking off next month?
That's up to you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the Planning Commission has in the past taken off the month of June. And, you know, several years ago, it was mainly because the board was still working on the budget at that time, and there were multiple meetings during the month of June. But given the schedule that we followed the last 2 or 3 years with the budget, the board is set to adopt the budget next Thursday night. So, I mean, time-wise, you could certainly have a meeting. You know, I'm not aware of any applications that would require action. The only item now that you would have for your next meeting is, you know, proposed revisions to the noise ordinance.
And you're in a hurry to get that.
Yeah, so, and I did mention earlier that should the board approve the budget next Thursday night, which I expect they will, the monthly stipend that the planning commission receives will double as of July 1. So if you take off June, when you come back in July, you'll get a pay raise.
Well, there you go. Thank you, guys. Y'all are very kind. Hope we don't get any nasty letters in the paper. Show all of our pictures up here for making $200 a month.
Yeah. But, you know, just because this is recorded and it's in the minutes, that has not been adjusted since 2000. So
Wow.
23 years. Long overdue.
Well, sounds good. So, I don't see any reason to fight back here for next month just to get the noise ordinance unless you guys want to. Take a month
Okay.
off. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, your bylaws state that, you know, your bylaws state that you have to meet, you know, at least every other month. So taking June off is no problem.
Okay. All right, well, if it's okay with you guys, we'll take off next month and we'll meet again in July. Good luck with your budget and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Any other
One
stuff?
more week.
Any other updates, information? Welcome to everything. It's nice having you here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, okay, this meeting is adjourned.
All right.